Thank you very much for the follow. Apologize if you guys can hear the construction going on next door. Me and JRock have been pretty hard at work, non-stop, but right now I'm working on the grandstand for the dirt track at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Working on the main grandstand. Obviously, it's more fun for us because it's so open and we can edit just about every part of it, other than the physics, obviously. But every other part of it, we can pretty much change it whatever we want. So that's that's why I've been into it for so long. Yeah, if you're new to the stream, sometimes Jason JRock will join me on here in voice chat. It's a little more interesting when he's on here. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Just logging laps. I mean, it's so much fun. What's going on, Jason? No, I'm not working on the ambulance right now. Actually, just checking out the caution lights.
Drivers, start them engines!
Keep it under 40. Keep it under 4,500 seconds. The pace car is in. Green flag, green flag. Green, green, green.
Well, I guess it would help if I turned on caution flags, huh?
Drivers, start your engines!
Yeah, I made some very slow LP files. Obviously, I got to re-record the race line.
Keep it under 40. Keep it under 4,500 seconds. The pace car is in.
I have to redo that pit exit point. I stay on the apron too long.
Green flag, green flag. Green, green, green. Car outside. Stay low. Keep low. The yellow flag is out. Let's go. Race back to the line. Pit road is closed. Outside. Keep low. Clear outside. Inside. Keep high. Clear inside. Car inside. Stay high. We're under caution. Catch up to the end of the pacing line. Stay behind the 2 past the 88. You're now in 3rd. Good job.
A lot of those spotter sounds are actually from iRacing. Well, that pace car jumps right out, don't it?
Pit road is now open.
Spotter stand looks great.
The pace car is in turn 3. The pace car is in turn 4. Watch that speed now. Keep it on. 4,500 seconds. The pace car is on the front straight. 20 more laps. Okay, you're in second. The pace car is in turn 1. The pace car is in turn 2. The pace car is on the back straight.
Yeah, the
The
pit
pace car
flagger's
is in
off.
turn 3.
The pit flagger's off in the infield.
Go, go, go! The pace car is in turn 4. Limit 40. Keep it under. 4,500 seconds. Clear of pit lane. Stay behind. The 88. You didn't exit the pit safely. Okay, you've got to go to the end of the longest line.
Black flag there. Check out the starter stand when I come by here.
1 lap to green. Line up single file. Get ready. Going green. Pace car is in. Green, green, green. yellow flag is out. Let's go. Race back to the line. Pit road is closed. We're under caution. Catch up to the end of the pacing line. There's an accident on the front straight. Stay behind the two.
No, I didn't reskin it. And I just spun Junior out on purpose there.
Connected. User left your channel. User joined your channel.
Did you get in there?
Sorry, it's asking for the password. We're going to get on TeamSpeak.
Yeah, go to that go to that room, it's editing. I want to make sure.
Yeah, it's asking for the password.
Put editing. Make sure you get in there.
Channel switched. User joined your channel.
There you go.
There we go, got it.
Yeah, I think they put the password back on it. It just keeps anybody else that comes in here from getting in there, so we'll step on what we're doing.
Alright, give me just 1 second.
Did you go offline?
Alright, I'm back.
Okay. I saw that screen on there. I wasn't sure if you went offline or not. Did it off air? I just want to make sure.
Yeah, there we go. Actually, I'm glad you're on here because I was looking at how to map that grandstand and I'm not sure the best way to map it.
Which one?
The dirt track main grandstand.
Oh, did you construct one or how'd you do it?
Yeah, I'm pulling it up here.
I was just talking to Matt from TWA there last night. He gave me a couple other pictures. It doesn't focus on the grandstand necessarily, but some of the key things in there, like I don't know, did I ever show you the motor grader that I did?
I don't think so.
Let me see if I can pop that up there, because that's something, because like I said, those guys over there, they're like heavy into dirt tracks. They like the dirt racing as well as the asphalt as well, but no, he had kept hinting on it, and it's just like he saw what I could do, so on, and it's just one thing led to another, and he kept giving me pictures. He used to work for Caterpillar there in West Virginia, and he had lots of pics of different cat motor graders. Oh, so you did model one, or is this an existing one? Sorry.
It's scratch built.
Okay. Yeah, that's a lot better picture than what I've got. I've got a straight on one that's like from the infield that looks like right at the front of it. It's funny that you bring that picture up too, because that opening in the wall right there coming out of 4, that's actually he was explaining that to me. That's their staging line, because the pits are actually outside of 3 and 4, and then they actually parade out of there when they start the race. I mean, that's actually how they get in and out, or I should say out.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, it's pretty cool. I learned quite a bit last night, just telling me, as like I said. But one of the things I mentioned to him too, you were mentioning how he's got the infield, as far as just with that berm and all that good stuff. What he's trying to accomplish, he gave me some insight on that. See those tires that are there?
Right.
Those cars, when they get too close to that line, they actually will lose it. You know, tend to flip over, whatever like that. So it's kind of it's a way to prevent them, I guess, from going too low, because that's the fast lane. That's where they race for the most part. Where that car is in that picture, that's when they want to get out of the curve. They're showing me videos too, so it's kind of interesting that they and that berm that I speak of there, it's only in the turns. It's not on the straights. It's flat, more or less, on the apron in the straight. So get that.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean? But okay, it's looking at going back to the grandstand. Usually, what I do, like if I build one from scratch, next to just trying to make a texture completely, you know, by myself, I should say, you know, just from scratch as well. And I borrow from like other things that, you know, like the Martinsville stand, or maybe the Bristol stand. You know, speaking of Bristolville, you just showed, and just apply the different elements of that into it. That's the best way that I've done this. I mean, I even did that I did that Portland one, grandstands, and the Eldora ones, and see what you could do. Like with that section you've got up in Max there, see, you could that's actually the model. But that texture, you could take and duplicate that and just make, you know, your full scale. I'll make it a 2048 or whatever like that, and just make the whole face, the front face of the stands. Same goes, I guess, for the press box or whatever.
See, I'm not sure if I want to paint it like it is right now, where I've taken all the faces and made one flat map out of it, and just if I want to try to skew the texture, or if I want to do each one of those squares separately.
So it's a question of, you want to have more than one texture? Is that it?
Well, because the new technique that I was talking about on, I don't even remember what it was for now, but basically what I was doing was what you see here, taking those faces and mapping them out flat as one continuous face, and then making the texture inside of that box, like basically taking a screen capture of what I see right here, slapping that on top of the texture in Photoshop, and then painting within those green lines.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah, I totally, excuse me, I totally get what you're saying. See, I guess what I do, and I'm probably doing it totally wrong, but usually, like I said, I'll more or less guess based on the parameters of a MIP. It's like I was saying, make a texture that's for the grandstand, the front of the face of it, make it to where I think, and then what I feel will fit into that area that you're describing in the model, and then just adjust either the texture and or those white lines accordingly on the model.
It's certainly easier to do it that way.
Right. You know, rather than, you know, and like I said, I guess I pay attention more to, you know, how big you can make the texture itself. So just using that knowledge to your advantage, like I said, and you can do it, you know, much the same way as the older models, you could say, I guess, used to do it, where it repeats, I guess, the same texture over and over again. But in a lot of cases, you can't really do it that way, because to get those different sections in the model, I guess, to match don't always happen. So I would just assume make a texture that's, you know, what would represent the whole grandstand in this case, and then just adjust accordingly either the texture and or those different mapping points on the model.
Now, all that said, I think the way that you were talking about originally was the way that Papyrus did most of them, because if you notice how a lot of their grandstands will have angled faces, the texture does not line up where those angles meet.
Right. Well, and then the other thing is too, like you notice in the MIPS, how they'll have it as either a 0 or a 1 as opposed to a 3, because what happens is they're trying to use a narrower texture and have it repeat either vertically and or horizontally depending on the orientation of the object. What I've tended to do is just eliminate that. You know, unless it's something that, you know, it's a huge model. One grandstand that comes to mind is probably like the one at Coca-Cola. That's really huge, and to try and line up, I guess, all that stuff individually would be a pain in the butt. So to just have a repeating texture, I guess, across, you know, big, larger model like that would be more reasonable. But doing something like this, don't necessarily need to do that. I was showing Matt too, I guess, like what you came up with for the grandstands 3 and 4, the big track, and that restroom. Thought that was kind of crazy. It's like, that thing is way out there, you're never gonna see it. And then I showed him in the camera view sandbox there. It's just like, yes, you can.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need to go crazy showing, you know, the whole Lewis Motor Speedway or Charlotte Motor Speedway, but, you know, everything that you can see from there is, you know, It helps with your driving too, because it's landmarks that you're looking for when you dive into the corner.
Well, and that's been his point too. The billboards that are there, the highway that's there, the big track. It's just points of reference. I hear him mention a lot too, like at some of these tracks, how it has the same sky MIPS on a lot of these tracks and how the clouds are. And what's funny is a lot of those guys at TWA, Matt included, he'll be like, how he knows when to let off and back the straight or whatever to roll through the corner or whatever. He'll use that cloud reference in the sky because it's like on every track it's almost the same. So drivers do actually use points of reference like that. So it's like to have those types of things in there. Not every driver is going to use the same point of reference, but it's kind of cool to have them in there.
And I mean, you gotta consider the scale of the track too. This is a tiny little track with not a whole lot going on. I mean, you can't do that at Daytona, where you can't have like Daytona USA and all the hotels and all that kind of stuff. But this one, I think you can get away with it.
Well, and funny thing is, you've seen other builders, they've tried to do that, but it's like it adds too much to it. I mean, it's just overkill. I think it's some of that stuff is some like some of the tracks out there, like Smith's Den, things like that. How they've added like the party porch, Budweiser party porch. That's a key element. It's things like that I think need to be in there, I guess, to give points of reference. It's not just eye candy. We have to look beyond. What is the importance, I guess, of having it in there? It's not just to have it in there. The other thing too that has been discussed over and over, and I've got it in my notes here, but it's like those start and restart points that are either on the apron or the red lines that are painted on the wall. It's a good point there, because a lot of drivers, especially online, speaking particularly online, drivers tend to jump the restart or whatever like that, but without having those lines there's nothing to say, for admins to say, yeah, you did or you didn't.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's just something that I've kept in the back of my mind as far as like focusing more on that stuff, because I mean, up to this point, there's been a lot of focus on reducing or preventing such things as hot pitting. I think that has been a very good, very well implemented aspect, I guess, to the games, where you can overlay, I guess, the pit lane, the pit 1 is over the pit 0, to more or less extend the visual pit lane so that you can thwart drivers, I guess, from hot pitting. When once they hit the line before that first pit stall on pit road, they're gonna get busted.
Yeah, exactly.
So like I said, I think this is just the next step in implementing, I guess, a lot of those types of features that there's no question as to whether or not, driver hot pitted or jumped the restart or didn't.
I was doing that all the way back in the North Carolina track.
Just what that again?
Adding the restart lines on the wall and stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that track, to be honest, that gets you between that one and the Irwindale. Like it gets used quite a bit. Now, granted, I know the Irwindale, or some of the guys that I have, introduced it to and so on, have edited the grip levels and stuff like that to make it, what they feel is. I don't think that's a discount on the track at all. It's just everybody has their own little flavor of how the track should respond or how they, and so on. And it's just these applications that we apply to the I-9 and such, they're arbitrary, really. I mean, it's like if drivers have actually driven on the track or have been there and see what happens there and stuff, then they have the upper hand, really. I mean, it's just like if they know how to adjust it, if you can feel free to do so. That's what's nice about this sim. Texture looks good so far. Will you open the Bristolville one?
Trying to find a better grandstand base that's not having a gradient on it, because it had the night lighting from the one from Lowe's Motor Speedway, so I'm looking for something that doesn't have night shading. Now, I didn't ask you if this was going to be a night track or not, so I don't know.
Well, and like I've told those guys, usually even if the track is more or less going to be depicted at night, I always like to just make it during the day and then just add the shading afterwards. That way you have both versions, you know.
That way you're adding instead of taking away.
Well, that too. See, I've had every intention of doing a day and a night version of, say, Eldora. It's just, there's some things that I would really like to get added to that track in specific. Speaking of these small dirt tracks, one of those things I think we talked about before, probably offline, was to add those torches that go off, I guess, the checkered flag. I'm pretty confident that there's got to be some type of state switch or something that can be applied to an object to get, you know, that checkered flag trigger, I guess, implemented into an object, other than the start finish, the start flagger.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it would be a state switch as far as checkered flag. I mean, it stops scoring, and then it starts giving you that message about go ahead and pit or whatever it says. I can't remember.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's got to be no different than the caution light trigger. It's a state switch. There has to be something there, and it's just a matter of being able to figure out what that is. You know, if it's a combination of things or if it's just one thing, what have you. You know, on top of everything else, I guess we're trying to accomplish putting into these tracks. I mean, Phoenix has just been it's been a nightmare for me, because it's like one of the things I ran into was a poly issue. Having that many safer piece of foam, even when you do combine them into separate objects, you know, like per segment, you know, it still creates, when you add that many polys, I guess, when you consider even a 1 mile track like Phoenix is, it causes CTDs, crash the desktop. I mean, it's yeah, that's been my experience with that so far, and I guess that's pretty much the only reason why that build has taken as long as it has. Is just trying to figure out some type of way, and I've gone so far as to remove polys that aren't visible, as being squeezed, I guess, between a geometric Armco and a cement, you know, to just show the top and the left and right faces, take away the bottom, the back and the front, so on like that, to try and reduce I mean, overall, the aesthetic value and the options that you would have, I guess, having it the way I've got it applied, like per segment, opens up the door to be able to take those individual foams, for instance, and how they put the sponsors on the foam in certain turns and whatnot. You know, you would have that option.
Yeah, that would be freaking awesome. I've thought about that many times.
Right, and right now, like I said, that's the way, that's the direction I took, and that was just by accident, more or less, because I had, at one point, I had just the individual foams in each segment and placing them individually, and it's like, okay, took it up another notch and put them into big chunks, you know, like put 15 or 20 of them or so, you know, into a black object, and then it just, you know, it dawned on me, it's like, okay, if I can do that, why not just go per segment, You know, because each segment is usually a different size. You know, so it's like just looking for ways, I guess, to reduce how many polys are in one object. I mean, it's yeah, that looks good. Yeah, speaking of actually grandstands too, going back to Portland stands that I did there, I showed you that offline. When we were trying to implement new things in there that had obviously poly issues, I come to find that it wasn't some of those new ones that we were adding. It was actually the stands, the 3D people that I put in there is actually causing the problem. Is I took them out because it's a separate object from the stands itself, and the track works fine in race mode. It's when I put it in there, as soon as when their trucks are gridded, cars or trucks are gridded on the track, and as soon as you get rolling, it crashes.
Oh, which track was that?
Portland. I think I showed you.
Oh yeah, okay.
I think it did. Yeah, it's a conversion. It was it was a track that was done by someone else, and it's a nicely laid out track. There's geometrically wise, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just a lot of the ways the objects in it had a lot of LODs and things like that, so you would get coming and going as far as like would disappear and come back type of thing, and it's a lot of flickering. And so to eliminate that, just to rebuild the object from scratch and apply new textures. I mean, because a lot of the textures that were on the objects are really small, which made them really distorted and, you know, kind of ugly. Now, is that how did you apply that texture? That hasn't been adjusted yet, obviously, right?
What you're saying there is I just took the main face, so I'm doing each individual face and then repeating it.
I see. Rather than just selecting all those polys all the way across the front face?
Honestly, I think it's easier.
Okay. Well, there's not, like I said, there's more than one way, I guess, to do that. Usually what I would do, like I said, is I'll take all those faces that I want to apply to that particular texture and highlight all those, and then I'll adjust it to that. If that makes sense. So in other words, like all those faces, yeah, I see what you're doing. Yeah. Yeah, I suppose the way that texture is, yeah, maybe that might be the best way to do that. You know, to get as many of those stair cases or whatever that you want in each segment. You could even go so far and just edit the texture and take some of those stair sections out of there, just take them out, so that you could have, you know, like say in the end of each segment in that map for the model, you could have a stair. I don't even know how many stairs are there in that actual model, the actual stands.
I think up and down the scaling's fine. I think it just needs more sections across.
Yeah, that looks good. Right under the press box there, yeah. Yeah, it don't look bad at all. Sometimes hard to tell if you're in Max or in CS6. They both look the same.
Yeah, you gotta love that Windows 95 theme, classic theme.
And you've got your Reddit UVV for the UVW map. That's pretty large. Yeah. Those spaces there, is that the front? The very front?
Yeah.
Yeah, I see that now. See, now I was thinking of going over something like this. I mean, you could probably add to this, doing this mapping, I guess, of the model, and apply like scripting to it. See, and that's the things that we talked about. What's really somewhat frustrating, I guess, with doing the scripting, and in most cases you would have to have that pass file. And in order to get the pass file, you would have to have a version of Max that can support that exporter.
I can't believe nobody's updated that.
Well, and I think what's really going on is no one's really paying attention in their 2003 anymore. They're more or less looking at R Factor 2, a lot of these other sims that are out there. There's a Assetto Corsa, things like that. They're focusing on that now. So I think the tools that are available for their 2003, they are what they are. It's just like, you got to be able to use them. The only advantage, I suppose, I feel blessed with is the fact that I have my working version of Max 5, which I've had since way back when. I got that from when I first started the project. It's just, he was a graphic designer. Sent me a digital copy of it, so it's like even if I built a new machine, I could put that back in there. But I've yet to find, I think you've probably had the same problem as far as like finding a lot of those older versions of Max available anywhere. I see you're trying to do the press box now. What texture did you get for that? I didn't see that one.
It's part of one of the grandstands for Lowe's, or Charlotte. I keep calling it Lowe's.
Yeah. See how the bottom edge of that angle window, it tends to stair step.
Yeah, I think I need to repaint the texture because the original's leaned in on that leading edge, and this one's not.
Yeah, it might be just the way a lot of the problems that I find when you build a new model and you try to apply a texture from a different model, you get that because it's not conformed, I guess, to the new model that you just created.
Yep, gonna have to build it from scratch.
And that's just the window. I mean, it's not totally terrible. But I had to do the same thing when I did Eldora. I mean, I didn't think I would ever get those grandstands, I guess, to turn out the way they did. I think they turned out pretty good. I mean, it's like, it relatively is 3 different objects because it's got that perch that's on the main press box, which is separate from the actual main press box, and there's the one that's underneath, because it's like a pavilion type of deal. Not discounting this at all. I mean, it's not going to be.
You know me, I'm gonna have it completely repainted by the time you sit again.
Oh yeah, I totally get that.
Now, see, there's a good representation that you can see the grandstands at the drag strip.
That's the highway there you see right now. The billboards. Yeah. And that's something that Matt and I was talking about too. Is like, is it really necessary that we put the signage that's on the back side of those billboards? And it's like, hey, if we can get references to them, put them in there. But not too sure that you would be able to get a very good picture reference of it. And right there, I mean, I can somewhat pick out. I mean, there's some in there that are obviously pretty custom, and they're not simple.
Well, and you notice that I didn't put any of the billboards on the grandstand over there.
Which billboards? Oh yeah, the ones that are on the big track.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I mean, if, like I said, I think if you can get reference to it. See, even on that one, the only one I can really pick out there is the history one and the Coca-Cola. The other ones is kind of difficult to determine. I don't really think it's going to be that big of an issue, to be honest. And I've already got those lights. I've got, may have not seen, I guess I've played around with different configurations of light emitting objects, and one of the things I've come up with is eliminating the game produced, is the best way I can describe it, glow ball that looks like a fuzzy cotton ball.
Yeah.
And implement my own. As well as the haze.
Yeah, those lights have always been kind of lacking, I always thought.
Right. Well, and I've always thought that too. It's just like, especially when they're way up in the air, they're like that. They just, and when you put them, you know, like 6 of them in a row or whatever like that, they just look like a big fluffy cotton ball up in the air, and it's just, it doesn't look right. But part of the script to add that light emitting property, I guess, to light poles and such, you can control the size of that glow, the visual. That's all it is. It's just a visual glow ball. There's another parameter in there that changes the intensity and the ambient. So by playing around with the ambient and the intensity, you can control by basically making a 3D representation of that glow. That's not looking too bad at all. That one section there, obviously, I don't think you have it quite finished yet. One right there next to the far right. Yep, that one right there.
Yeah, so you can overlap it on the stairs section or the dark brown section and kind of get around the fact that it's actually twisted.
Right. You haven't had to rotate it or anything.
I'm actually squaring the face off in the mapping.
Oh, you are? Oh, square it off, okay.
And you can see when you hit planar map, it basically shows exactly what you see, which is all skewed.
Right. Well, that's something I get myself in trouble with too, as far as like not, you select the polys interfaces that you want to map, and then don't click on that planar map. Yeah, I've screwed some textures up pretty bad.
Yeah, you start moving something, and then all of a sudden something on the other side of the model starts moving with it, and you're like, oh crap, where'd that go?
Right. I haven't noticed too much. I think you filtered the what you have selected too, which helps.
Yeah, display only selected faces.
Right. I mean, once you're done, you know, then you can go ahead and open those up afterwards once you get everything in place. But when you don't, yeah, you can get yourself in trouble there too. Start selecting birds, whatever you're not supposed to, and what size did that texture end up being anyway?
This is 2048 by 1024.
That's not totally. So you still got space on the texture, whatever, to put press box stuff.
Yeah, I'll probably end up making that more of the bottom there and actually painting it bigger.
Yeah. See, my whole approach to it is what I'll do is I'll make the model like you've done. I'll look to see exactly what would have to get mapped to where, and then I'll lay that out in the texture. Get that all laid out in the texture, and then start mapping. This is obviously a different approach, and there's totally nothing wrong with it. But that's just been my approach to it. I see you got that, the way those stairs are in that right now so far, they're kind of jagged in the center. I don't think that's really that big of a deal. Yeah, that's going to happen. I mean, you have an otherwise straight texture onto a turned or skewed model.
You can kind of correct it, but I think by the time I get out to the last section, it's going to look way off.
Yeah. Once you get the people on there and stuff like that, you're not even going to see it. Yeah, once I can figure out, I guess, what the deal is with this stand, to me, scale-wise, size-wise, looks almost the same as the one I did for Portland. Which reminds me, I was going to show you that motor grader. It was doing something. I think it turned out pretty slick. You can show this picture to the viewers, I guess, if you so choose. As soon as I can find it. Yeah, Cat 128 is what it is, actually.
It's not terrible, but it's not great either.
Looks like my 3D Sim is acting up a little bit, so. Don't know why it's not loading. No, that doesn't look bad at all. That's interesting, I never had that happen before. Okay. Hmm. 3D Sim doesn't want to open for me. That's interesting.
That's not good.
No, I don't know what happened. I was using it last night. Just swirling there. That's crazy. So far, so good. And that stand there. Now I didn't look to see, did you already remove, I guess, like bottom faces and the back faces of that model?
I do have the back facing. I'm not sure.
Okay. That's another thing I've disciplined myself in doing before I start mapping, is just take out all the faces I know we don't need, like the back and the bottom, because you don't see that stuff.
Now the box itself, the media box at the top, I actually created a skirt. All you can see there is the skirts, so it's going to have transparent supports, and you'll be able to see the bottom of the box.
Right. Yeah, I can. So you'll have to have a texture with transparency in it, obviously. And if you're going to put the press box, I guess, in that texture that you're working with, to put the seats.
Yeah, there's plenty of room in there.
Right. What was I gonna say? As far as like creating that alpha channel, I guess in there you would have to. What I've found that works the best: save your texture as a bitmap, open that bitmap in WinMap 2, and then save it as a TGA in WinMap 2, and that'll automatically put your alpha channel. When you apply that TGA that you output from WinMap 2 from the bitmap, when you apply it to the model, it'll have the image alpha.
Oh yeah, okay, I know what you're saying.
That's what's critical, I guess, if you want that alpha channel to transfer to the model itself, is to have the texture once you spit out either 3ds or pass. That as long as you have that alpha channel in that texture, then it'll transfer and apply to that model. I think there's other ways of being able to get the alpha channel to get into the texture, but that's, to me, that's the best one, because then what I will do is I'll go ahead and make a MIP right away. Like I said, I usually lay out the entire texture before I start mapping. So that's kind of killing two birds with one stone. Now I got 2 instances. That's funny. Now I got 2 instances 3D Sim in it. But that's crazy. Darn thing. Anyway, I might have to restart later. And it didn't load the object. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, my computer crashed hard yesterday. I was building the base of this grandstand, and thank goodness for auto backups on 3ds Max and Photoshop, because I had all this stuff open, and all of a sudden the computer just started stuttering really bad. I wasn't streaming or anything, and I was like, oh, I better save this, and I clicked the file button on Photoshop, and everything just disappeared off the screen except for Photoshop and 3ds Max. There was no start bar, nothing. So I was like, okay, well, let me Control Shift Escape to see what's going on, and it was giving me all kinds of pop-up error messages, and then Photoshop crashed, and then 3ds Max crashed, and I'm just looking at my background with nothing else on it.
Yeah, I've had something similar to that, but I haven't lost functionality of like the start bar or anything like that. It's mainly been like if I go into Windows Explorer, I'll go to click on folder, and this is usually when I've got several instances of Explorer open, like in different drives, so I can reference quickly, I guess. And it's like if I'm moving files from one instance of Explorer to another, a lot of times it gets wad it up there, and it'll just sit there and squirrel to the point where I lose. It brings up some type of error saying Windows has lost communication or something to that effect, and then I usually have to restart. That's only happened maybe once or twice. But yeah.
Well, with 3DS Max, well, what happened after that was I hit the restart button on the computer. Obviously, there was no start bar or start menu to restart the computer. So I hit the manual reset button on the front of the computer, and it kept coming up with please insert bootable media.
Oh, that's not cool.
Yeah, I backed everything up last night because I'm like, oh great, the hard drive's failing.
Yeah, I haven't had that happen to me, knock on wood, so far, but
So yeah, I got everything loaded back up. After I shut it off completely and cold booted it, everything was fine as far as Windows. I went to go open the grandstand file that I've been working 3 hours on, and it said file not found. I'm like, well, how did you find it in the list if it's not there?
did you end up having to rebuild it, or was it there?
That's how I found that it automatically backs up every 10 minutes.
Oh, right.
So you go to the 3DS Max backup folder.
Right.
And then Photoshop does the same thing, but it automatically reloads the last thing that it crashed on, so that just reloaded automatically.
Well, the fact that you got the system rebooted has to say something. I mean, maybe it's
Now that hard drive may or may not be zip tied to the case.
zip tied.
Yeah, my IDE cable or SATA cable was too short, so I had to zip tie it to the top of the hard drive mount.
Oh, I see. How was that? How was it that the SATA cable or whatever's too short? That's wild.
One of the cable, I think it might be the power cable that was too short because it's being shared by the CD-ROM and the hard drive.
Oh, were those slave then?
I'm pretty sure it's the power one, but it's just too short the way I have it arranged in there.
Turn this thing into a DIY computer build.
There's a lot of people that do that, some of the bigger names.
Right. I just had the one guy or whatever, he's helped set this channel up in the TeamSpeak here. He just built a new system. I think you got a chance to look at those. He's got mostly ASUS components. Pretty cool. I told him, it's like, you should have done a DIY on that thing, because he builds a new system, a new rig just about every year. Then he'll sell the system either in whole or part of the one that he just replaced.
Well, see, that's the smart way to do it. I keep holding on to mine. I've got a pile of parts.
Right. Oh, and see, he had told me he's like the beta tester sorts, I guess, for Intel. He like gets the components, like he'll get the right now the system he's got that Intel. It's a generation 5 Intel i7. But it's the K, it's got the open structure to the point where you can overclock it and all that good stuff. I see your rollback in there. Made any progress on that?
Nah, I'm kind of waiting to see if the chassis cab is going to need a whole lot of work first.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you had. I tried to lessen down the polys as much as I can. I have it, to this point, I have it in two separate objects between the chassis and cab and then the box. And it still crashes the game. I mean, it'll go to race, but it's kind of almost the same type of thing that's happening with the 3D people that I did for Portland. It's like cars and trucks get gridded, and as soon as you get moving, crashes. Testing mode works like a charm. I don't know if you've ever tried out the new CWS 15 that Omega's got out there.
Which one is it?
The CWS, the 2015 trucks that Team Omega's got out.
No, I didn't know they released it.
Oh yeah, it's got the driver name banner on the rear window and all that stuff. It's pretty cool.
Did that just come out recently, or?
I was looking at, well, everybody kept talking about it. It was like between over here at All Star and over at TWA. It's like new drivers were coming in and they said, well, I got the 2015 trucks, and we're just like, huh? So, I started looking at SRD and whatever, see what's going on, and I saw there was a Daytona truck set for the 15s. I'm like, okay, there's gotta be more to this. So I went to Omega, sure as snot, they're there.
I'll check that out. I just found a higher resolution, better texture for that side there.
Okay. I noticed the PTF reference that you have, the track PTFs there, you have 3D Sim Ed opens those.
It can, yeah.
I've got the little racing wheel, I guess, for mine. Keep them separate because I've found that having the PTF, I guess, the same as the 3DO, which is, for 3D Sim Ed, that seems to make more sense. It makes it harder, I guess, to be able to pinpoint the PTF. But looking at the extension, I suppose. That's probably a little pet peeve or qualm of mine.
Never really thought about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you're probably just so used to it. That's the thing. Yeah, so like if I go into my unpack track, I'll have the MIPs are assigned to WinMIP 2. All 3DOs are assigned to 3D Sim Ed, and the track PTF is to Sandbox. So it's everything's separate. I can tell whatever everything is. Is that not the same texture? I thought that was. It looks better. Oh yeah, okay. Step right on that. Cover that crap up.
It was never here.
Out of sight, out of mind. Yeah, I see how you say it's got that night shading kind of on it. I mean, you can fix that, really.
Other than Daytona, what's another track that has that similar box?
Oh boy. Now you're gonna have to be thinking so many, Martinsville, it's got something similar. Michigan. New Hampshire, there's one. In fact, going back, I guess, to dirt track in Charlotte, when we're talking about New Hampshire, there's some stuff in there that could probably be used in New Hampshire. Maybe just resize it, rescale it, whatever. But you're already doing this, so may not need to do that. There was the main grand. It was either the main grand or one of them in the turns there that otherwise got removed from the actual New Hampshire track. It's like repurpose that thing and just put it in the dirt track in Charlotte. It's like even if you had to modify it or whatever to get it to conform to the track.
Critical says California might have one of those too.
So what again? I'm sorry.
Critical in chat on Twitch said there might be one at California.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Thanks, Critical. See, and I never realized that, too, as you're doing that, going through those textures with your 3D Sim. I almost forgot about being able to do that. I'm so particular to using WinMip 2, it's not even funny.
I really wish there was a plugin for Windows to be able to see MIPs as BMP files or preview.
Well, without actually having to extract it. You know, just like you're doing there, just highlighting it and boom, there it is.
I haven't gone through the NR 2003 tool pack for a while. There might be something in there.
Well, there was one, and I think it's available at the pits, because I had downloaded that because I was trying to put together some type of thing for doing the scripting, as far as the PSG scripts. They don't even have a sample. They have a tutorial that I came across as far as how to construct one, but there's not a sample PSG other than the one that's in the car for creating a mod. It's the only one that they have in there. And I mean, it does have elements in there that are pertinent to adding those commands to get the model to do whatever, like as far as just loading the mesh from the pass, do a modify texture base, things like that. You're still in California.
Yeah, I don't see one in California. Maybe a different version.
Try that New Hampshire. I guess it's for. There's some stands in there that have a similar. I don't remember the names of them right off the top. Darn, you got a lot of tracks in yours too. I've got like 4 different separate folders, like third-party tracks. That's New Hampshire, okay. Oh, I think he just passed one. Right there.
See, it's similar, but it's very small.
Yeah, it's one of those ones that we were talking about where it's the repeated.
It has a decent face. I mean, let me go ahead and look at it. Yeah, it was very small.
Yeah, it was worth a shot. That's almost as big as the original one you had there. Yeah, but in actuality, you know, if you were to, are you trying to make the double window, I guess, like that guy on the side, or just a single? I think it's only a single window that goes across.
Yeah, and that's kind of pointing me towards painting it myself, I guess.
Or you could blow that one up and use it as a guide. Yeah, see, it's only got the single window. Right. You could take that one from New Hampshire there, it has almost the same orientation there. Like I said, just blow that up to how big, however big you want it, and then just redraw those lines. I had to do that myself too. I think I did that for Eldora actually. This is driving me nuts. I can't get my 3D Sim Ed to open.
Which version do you have?
I don't even know. I can't get it to open. No, it's not the latest, because the latest one he's got, it's got for being able to port in a set of cores and that.
I thought in version 3 or whatever it is now that he dropped support for the older stuff.
I mean, I've been able to open it. This is the first time I haven't been able to get it to open. I mean, I've got a shortcut on the desktop and have just directly tried to click on a 3DO to open it. That has been working, but because I need it, it doesn't want to. It's crazy. I keep getting this Windows was unable to execute command for the program. You know, and I think a lot of the problem is too is a lot of these 32-bit programs, which I think this 3D Sim Ed is. I run into the same problem almost, similar, not exact, but I mean it's like Fraps. I have the same problem. Camera Control Master I do. Cam Hack I do.
The only issue I have with Cam Hack is I think the repeat refresh rate doesn't work exactly correct like it's supposed to.
Does yours work?
Yeah, but if I go to move the camera around it, I have to keep tapping the button instead of holding it.
Oh, really? Okay, I think I got it working here. I've been trying to show you that motor grader. See if this works. Yeah, because one of the pictures that he had sent me, it shows outside of 3 and 4 there were in the direction of where the I guess the drag strip, it shows the motor grader parked against the fence. Cat 128. Oh yeah, there it goes. I got it open now. I'll take a picture.
So far, everything with the stream itself has been going pretty good. I got notified that critical followed and everything showed up fine, and I've got 0 dropped frames so far.
Did it come up that what is that thing where it shows you that somebody's new has followed?
Yeah. It was a bit delayed though.
Was it? Because I didn't see it come up on the feed. That's what I was wondering. Until you mentioned whatever that he was in the chat, I was like, didn't even think of it. It's pretty cool. We got someone following anyway. Hope they're enjoying it. Getting something out of it, I guess.
Yeah, hopefully they're not as bored as we are.
Hey, some of this is kind of learning as we go too. Applying some of the stuff that we do know, but obviously there's some fresh insight.
That's why I don't turn down any extra projects, because I learned something on every single one of them.
Well, yeah, and then you try to want to implement it, and it's like it gets you stuck, and then it's just like, okay, now what? You know, you kind of almost might just stick with what you know does work, and then just go from there. Like you did the LPs and that for the AI for Bristolville. That, you know, how that should go. The caution lights, those types of things, you know, work. So you just want to be able to show that it's. I'm gonna send you this picture here.
No, that's pretty cool. How many polys is that?
You know, I don't even know. But I do know it does load. I applied it to a couple different dirt tracks, whatever that they run in the series, and I haven't had a problem. So it's definitely under. Now that I think of it, I almost want to look at that and see what's in there as compared to like the 3D crowds that I'm having a problem with. Obviously, it must be a poly issue because it crashes only when I go to race, and I think it has a lot to do with the high detail of the mod in conjunction with, you know, those added 3D crowds. I'm gonna open that up and see, for the sake of argument.
Yeah, critical, that's a good point.
Oops, what did you mention?
After doing those that lattice work for that back of that grandstand texture, what I just pulled up, I can't imagine how long that took to paint that.
Oh, that?
That is a cluster.
You know, and I would have to be willing to bet that when they probably took a picture of the side-on view of the stands, but they actually spank out all the areas that are otherwise transparent. I think that was the task.
Yeah, it has to be a photo, because there's no way you could paint all that.
Yeah, no. No, my guess is that they probably took a picture of the side-on view of the stands, but still, to get all the areas that would otherwise have to be transparent, you know, where you can see through, that had to have been a challenge.
Let's see, back in 2002 when they made that, did they have the magic wand tool?
I don't think so.
Good grief, man.
Oh my, yeah, exactly. You know, so it kind of brings it to an understanding as far as like why they used such a narrow, you know, the repeating as opposed to, you know, something that's not, because they didn't have those tools.
Yeah, exactly.
They kept it simple because, yeah, otherwise that would have been a nightmare. Now, can you imagine if they had done the same thing like underneath the front face of the stands? It just looks, it's got the shadows there. It's not. You can imagine if they'd done the same thing there. That'd be nuts. Yeah, that would have been crazy. Yeah, we like focusing on the stuff that we can control. They're critical. Some of these new games, the new sims that are out there, you're not able to do anything with it. You have the option to be able to control, I guess, what goes into, what's outputted, I guess, close as you can possibly get it. That's kind of where we like to stick. That is an awesome pick. I almost would like to use that as a, because Matt had sent me a couple of different shots, I guess, to use as a track shot. You know, the track selection menu. I mean, some are on track, some are outside of the track, semi-aerial type of thing, and it's. I mean, that's finer detail type of stuff, but you know.
Yeah, I got that picture from the official website, I think.
Well, I know the one picture that he sent me, I think that was when he actually went to one of those. He went because he follows the World of Outlaws. What are you looking for in there?
Wanted to see what the end of the grandstand looked like.
Oh, okay, the 3D view. Yeah, I think that lattice work that you had brought up earlier is probably about right. See, I thought that was a traffic light right there. I don't know why, on the highway there. That's actually, it must be like a information sign. That's hanging over that, the highway there, the lattice, as you call it.
Yeah.
I've never actually been to that dirt track, to be honest.
Like I said before, a couple days ago, I didn't even know this track existed.
Well,
I'm gonna get so much crap for that, but
well, you know, and I can be accused of that too, because I guess I kind of knew it was there, but I'd never seen pictures of it. I always hear about it, World of Outlaws and such, but until Matt had brought it up to me, it's just, I guess the same could be said for Eldora. I mean, it never really came into the limelight in my mind until Tony bought it. You know, me really give a crap that it was there. But Tony's done so much with it since he's bought it. It's a shame not to do something with it. You know, as far as in the sim world, anyway. And I keep having to mention to those guys, you know, that when they commission me to do it, it's like, you know, I'm not doning myself at all or patting myself on the back that that's a perfect build, but I think it's a very good base. Yeah, that lattice there looks pretty.
it's a little bit on the tall side for this object, and I know if I deform that texture at all, then I'm gonna have issues with the transparency.
Well, and again, I don't think I necessarily went over that with you, but what I'll do is I'll take that, crop it out, and I'll select that as a transparent image in my color swatch. I don't know if you can do that in CS6, but I know in Paint Shop you can. And then just you create your image, you know, like whatever you crop out there, I make the same size image, what I cropped out, and then paste it in there as a transparent after you've chosen the magenta, I guess, as your transparent.
Well, in Photoshop, it handles edges very poorly, and I haven't been able to figure out how to get it to sharp edge, I guess would be the way to describe it.
Yeah, see, I don't even need to do anything like that in paint shop. As long as you, now, sometimes what'll happen, most of your base textures, your default textures like from the game like that, they've got the clean edges on there. So as long as you select the magenta in this case as your transparent, once you make your new image and copy and paste that transparent in that new image that you create, it's going to take it out. That's basically what I did when I sent you that fence to put on the back of the grandstand there. Same thing.
Critical. Most of the racing that I enjoy is asphalt. Our local track, Killcare Speedway, was asphalt. That's really mainly what I've been into. I don't know about you, Jason.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I've only gotten into been influenced, I guess, by dirt racing and just by fellas in the community that like the dirt racing, I guess. I mean, it's not anywhere close to what is represented in, say, like R Factor, but in order to keep this sim going, that really seems to, in my mind anyway, it seems that's what seems to keep the sim going. The more things that you can apply to it to satisfy, I guess, every venue or genre of racing, you know, that's, so I guess I've jumped on that bandwagon, I guess, to whatever I can do and just apply what knowledge and what you can do with the sim to apply it. I mean, we haven't gone into too much of this particulars as far as applying dirt properties and such to a track, but that's something you could definitely look into if there's an interest in it. I mean, there's different ways to go about it, but what I've come up with when working with other leagues, and how to get a track to somewhat respond much the same way an actual dirt track races. I mean, you can get it close. It's not always perfect, but there's different ways of applying it, and not every dirt track that you attack that you tend to apply to it is different as far as how you do it. One thing I guess I can say, without going into too much detail, is when you build a dirt track, there's really only two properties that you can apply to the racing surface itself, and neither one of them has to do with an asphalt or concrete, because when you do that, it really takes away the element of it being a dirt track.
Now, see, I don't look at it as a dirt track that I'm working on. It's just another racetrack to me.
We're right. From what you're doing, yes. And that's kind of almost the approach that you take when you build a dirt track. You think in terms, at least in the back of your mind, as asphalt, and then you adjust from there as far as, like, because a lot of it has to do with what type of grip levels and such to those properties that you apply. It comes down to mostly I&I and the properties you apply in Sandbox. It's the aesthetic value of it. It's kind of a bonus, really. That's really what we're representing here. I mean, all that what most would consider to be eye candy is a bonus. I mean, you could have just the track by itself and have it function closely as it should, and not have any of that stuff. But you really lose the immersion factor, let's just say, when you don't have all that stuff in there.
And we've had this conversation 100 times where there's still a lot of life left in this game. I mean, we can get a lot more into it. I think we're right on the edge with that chassis cab, but
right, you know, and that's just a matter of figuring. I mean, there's obviously a limitation. There's limitations to the game, and it's quite obvious that one of those limitations is the number of polys, vertices that you can have in an object. When you have too much, it causes crashes, and it's just a lot can be said too, I guess, with the way a lot of these these different modders, as far as like the truck mod and the Gen 6 and so on, and the amount of detail that they're putting in those models, you know, not to detract or take away from what they're doing, but it kind of steps on what us track builders are able to do because of them having so much detail in those. But where's the compromise? That's the thing. Being able to balance it out in such a fashion that you can have both worlds all in one. I think it's possible. It's fully possible. But it's just being able to figure out those ways, I guess, to be able to get it to happen. I mean, it's like you said. I think that that new chassis cab that we've been trying to get implemented in there for the last couple of weeks. It'll happen. It's just a matter of figuring out something that's a middle of the road compromise as far as.
So you actually race critical, or? Well, see, me personally, I can't afford to race. Then again, I've got probably $5,000 in this computer setup, so.
Oh, I see. So, critical, if I understand you correctly, you're more of a dirt racer. See, I've come to find, particularly in this community, a lot of the guys that give me inspiration, I guess, to build these dirt tracks are dirt racers as well, or they have sometime in their lifespan there. Because some of the guys they're up there in age, but they have a lot of knowledge as far as useful knowledge, not just to be, you know, throw it out there and be like, you know, here it is, just do it type of thing. But it's an intellectual conversation, to say the least. Because I mean, it's like, but to see those. And you see it happen in real life too, where some of the NASCAR drivers even they came from the dirt ranks, and they're able to apply that knowledge, I guess, to asphalt racing, and they're fast as hell. I mean, it's crazy, and it's the same as true in the sim world. These guys that were dirt racers, they're able to apply a lot of their knowledge of what they know in dirt and apply it to asphalt, and they're crazy, wicked fast, and you can't beat them half the time. I mean, they're tough racers.
Oh, no doubt. If you don't mind me asking, Critical, where do you race at?
They mentioned something about dwarf cars, you know. Not sure if I'm too familiar with that. I don't know if that's similar to Sprints or like Legends or something. Or... I mean, there's a lot of different dirt. I mean, even the dirt mods that some of these, like, I'll use the Bullring for an example. There, they've created I don't know how many different dirt mods. You know, and it gets you interested because it's like, I've never seen that before, and you start looking for pictures, and you'd be like, you gotta be kidding me, that's just crazy. I mean, I've seen, for the longest time, when the Wayland Modifieds came out from Sim Modified, there back when those had been used on scratch-built dirt tracks, I guess, for the simulation for years, up until it became common knowledge, I guess, for places like the Bullring, I guess, to come out with different mods, I guess, too, and the different physics too.
Oh, so it's a dirt version of the Legends.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. You know, when you said dwarves, that's it. That's really the only small. You know, thinking of dwarves, thinking small. That's the only car I can think of that would be somewhat similar to it. Yeah, Legends are fun. I've actually I've had the privilege of being able to take a Legend, not at full speed obviously, but around the track, and yeah, those are blasts. I can only imagine what the dwarfs are probably like. I don't, like talking in realistic as far as like racing. The only thing that I've ever really done is asphalt. Any racing that I've ever done, be it either in the sportsman, bomber class, things like that. That's just basically taking stock cars, gut it out, put a roll cage in it. I mean, I had some fun with that. But yeah, that's been the bulk of, I guess, any of my experience in there, and that's why I enjoy these types of sims and being able to do what I can do with it, to try and depict some of these tracks that I've raced on.
Yeah, I think I've heard of that before, Silver Dollar. The only experience I have with actually driving a real race car is I drove a 2-speed modified, similar to the Wheel Modifieds, but it was like 450 horsepower, it wasn't much. I drove it up and down the road in front of the guy's house, and I never even got into second gear, but that was the greatest experience of my life.
Yeah, it's funny. Silver Dollar, I mean, there's so many tracks that are out there, and it's just like, that's kind of like going back to what I was saying. I'm not sure if you were in here when we were talking about it, Critical, but tracks like Portland, in Portland, Oregon, on the west coast there, there's not a lot of tracks, that are rooted in NASCAR, and in specific, I guess, the truck series, the birth of the truck series there. Portland used to be one of the tracks where a lot of the truck drivers came from, and they've more or less moved themselves up through the ranks in NASCAR. Those like Greg Biffle, for instance. And the fact that Portland track is now it's a rotting cesspool, I guess, out in there, it's depressing, because there's no mention, I guess, of that even ever existing anymore, it seems. Much can say the least. James and I has talked about like North Wilkesboro. I mean, it's still there, and they've used it on and off throughout the years, but it gets used once, and it gets tossed aside like it's no big deal. It's just, I suppose that's my James could probably attest to it too. I think that's another reason why, I guess, we tend to keep stuff that's would otherwise seem old and used kind of alive, because it gives you inspiration, I guess, to want to keep it going, because it's like you can't get away from your roots, I suppose.
Well, and that's the other reason why I like sim racing. Now, local track racing obviously is a little bit different than NASCAR. I mean, you can get into the whole rant of NASCAR being a business versus actual racing.
Right. And I don't think there's as much controversy as there is in the higher ranks in NASCAR as there is in the local, the local racing. Because, like I said, that's pretty much where I've stayed, and that's where I've gotten a lot of my racing experiences, all local tracks. I've never really gotten into the whole marketing ploy as far as like getting sponsorships and and just selling yourself, I guess, like that. It's just, to me, that's a whole different ball of wax, and it's something I don't really necessarily want to get into. It's like, I just want to race, period. And I think that's ultimately what got me out of it, because you tend to get overexposed to the point where you lose sight of what you're actually doing it for. And yeah, I feel like I might be making excuses, I guess, for myself, but I think I feel like this is my scapegoat of sorts, to say, yeah, I'm still into racing. Granted, it's not real racing, it's simulated, but to me, it's still real. that's always been my motto as far as keeping it real since the start of the project. I mean, I just.
Yeah. So he raced against Kyle Larson. Yeah, he seems like he's very aggressive, but I think he gets held back because of where he's at.
Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, we got into a discussion the other night about. I don't remember if it was either Kurt or Kyle, one of the two. It might have been both. How they're, some could say whatever, they're getting held back too, and you look to see. No, it wasn't them. Who was it that moved? Oh, Carl Edwards and Kevin Harvick. How they moved from Kevin had moved from RCR and Edwards moved from Roush. I think they felt that they were getting held back to the point where they weren't getting the equipment that they needed to guess to win. It's that whole marketing thing again. As far as like get so overexposed to the point where lose sight of what you're really doing it for, and those I think like Carl Edwards and probably even Kevin Harvick for that matter, they just want to race. They don't care about all the sponsorships and whatever like that. That's to them that's just gravy. I mean, yeah, you're getting the money so that you can continue to do what you do, but at the same time, all they want to do is race. That's part of the reason, big part of the reason why I like to follow drivers like that. But Kyle Larson is another one. I think, I have to kind of laugh in a way because James and I has talked about this too, as far as like implementing Austin Dillon in the number 3 car, Richard Childress. And Grandpa, I guess, do all of his pitting. I know this about that, James.
What's that?
About Austin Dillon's, getting, his bid, I guess, to get in there because of Grandpa.
I don't see him having any business driving the 3 car. That's my opinion.
Okay, so we're both on the same sheet of music.
If anything, he should have been in the 31 or the 33 or something.
Right. I don't take away the fact, I guess, that he probably deserves to race. I mean, he hasn't really proven himself all that much, but compared to Kyle Larson, I think Kyle Larson's a much better race car driver than Dillon. Now, are you referring to Dillon or Larson? I mean, I can't say, I've never met either one of them in person, to say the least, but just looking at the way they present themselves on the track, it makes me tend to think the way I do as far as if I had my choice between some of the new guys, I guess, that are in even the Cup Series, any series, NASCAR series for that matter, but I'll focus mostly on the Cup Series. If I had my choice, who I'd want to see succeed the most would probably be Kyle Larson. If just comparing Dillon and Larson. Larson, I think, has got something there.
I would almost like to see him in the 5 car, just to see what would happen.
That's funny you mention that too, because Casey Kane, I don't think he's been given all what he needs to do what he can do. He's obviously proven himself when he was with Evernham and so on. I mean, that's why he's gotten to where he is, to be honest. And lately I just don't think he's been given the tools that he needs to get up front. It's frustrating because it's like I know he's better than that.
Well, it goes back to NASCAR being about contracts and, you know, selling products. Who's the sponsor? Time Warner. Well, who just took over sponsorship? One of their competitors.
Right. Well, it can go way back when, I guess, when Sprint took over the Premier Series, you know, up as the, you know, premier sponsor, I guess, of that series. And then you had all the different sponsors, like Jeff Burton's had Singular or AT&T or whatever he had. It's just like, nope, you can't have that. Like, what the heck? What are these drivers supposed to do? I mean, it costs as much as it does. I mean, you can kind of laugh too about the car, I guess, that got stolen from Atlanta there. They could probably be considered an underdog team, but it's like they just dumped it on the side of the road. $250,000 car on the side of the road. It's like, what the heck is going on? Are people that ignorant to the fact that they just don't understand how much money goes into running a race team? And the car itself is the bulk of your investment. No, I sat there and scratched my head for days. I mean, they had it on social media and that, as far as like all that happening. It's just like, what is wrong with people? Do they just not understand? He was mentioning about Dylan there. You know, and don't get me wrong, I think he could be, I think he gets a lot of bad publicity, you know, being Richard Childress's grandson and so on. I think had that particular element not been present, it'd be a different story. You know, he could be closer related to, I guess, to Kyle Larson. To be honest, that's just my personal viewpoint of it, but, you know, being that he's overshadowed by his grandfather there, I think it doesn't do him any justice. No, he feels like he's constantly in the spotlight. He has to perform. He has to be able to submit results, and a lot of times he gets put in a bad way because of it.
My response to Critical's response there is Danica Patrick. I mean,
oh, Danica? Yeah, there's another one. Yeah, I just, you know, and my personal, you know, because I've been a long time fan, I guess, of Gordon, and the fact that he's retiring kind of upsets me, but I won't go there. But when he had last practice, he got the pole. He got the pole, I guess, for the Vegas race, and then he had crashed due to Patrick there, I guess. Yeah, that was, you know, in thinking in terms of what Gordon's thinking, as far as his reasons, I guess, to get out. I mean, yeah, he says a lot. He wants to focus on family and such like that. But I think it's stuff like that that really irritates him, and he's just doing it in a formal fashion, a civil fashion, to say, yeah, enough's enough. That's my own personal perspective, I guess, with Gordon's decision there. It's just like, there's too much going on that doesn't need to be happening in NASCAR. It's too much, and it's going to get him in trouble. That whole fiasco, I guess, that happened in Texas there, as far as calling Keselowski, I guess, a shithead.
yeah.
I think that was the turning point for him. He's just like, yep, it's time for me to get out. I'm going to do and or say something I'm going to regret, and he doesn't want to taint his career over something like
that. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. You know, and I got nothing against Danica as a person. She's, you know, she does well, I guess, in the other things as far as modeling and stuff like that. That's where she needs to be. not NASCAR. You don't need to be, sexing it all up, I guess, in NASCAR. That needs to go somewhere else. That's just, and I think NASCAR's approach to allowing such like that, them types of things happen and continue, I guess, in the Premier series in particular. That's just something it's going to make it just more worse than it really needs to be. And again, going back to, that's why I feel drivers like Gordon has decided to hang it up. It's just, there's just so much going on, and we probably don't even know all of it, what's going on, but we can just see what's going on at the surface. And you're really going to town on this thing, man.
Trying to.
What did I miss here? I've been sitting here chatting and conversating with Critical here, but you took the texture off the model?
Yeah, it ended up for, I can't remember what it's called, where it automatically changes the format of the name.
Oh, the model itself?
Short names or something like that. I know there's a way to turn that off, but I don't know how to do it.
Yeah, I think I can't remember either. I guess what I do normally is just, I'm kind of disciplined in being able to realize when I export out the model, I'll just automatically change it. It has to be no bigger than 8 characters. I do know that. And it doesn't matter if it has an underscore or not in it, but it cannot be any bigger than 8 characters in the model name. It's just the standard for either Max and or game.
Now, that does not have to apply other than in Max. It's a setting, but you can turn that off. I know there's a lot of Papyrus stuff that doesn't use it.
Right. Now, so far, have you saved that texture for that grandstand as a PSD layered?
Yes.
Okay. I only asked that because that's something there's a lot of things like that I discipline myself in and doing. So you didn't have to modify that lattice, that side lattice there at all, did you?
Now, it's kind of one of the things I'm checking out here.
Okay. I would have to imagine, going back to, I guess, where we got off track there, being able to select that magenta as a transparent and then copy and paste that, without having that particular color in Photoshop there. I mean,
The transparency was able to pass through into some ads, so we'll see if it happens to pass through into the game.
You're in Simad right now. Did it transfer? I see a little bit of pink on the bottom, but I should say magenta.
Critical, I've been doing this since 2003. Some of the first stuff that I was doing was removing walls, doing jump tracks and stuff like that.
It's kind of the same here. I may have not introduced myself, but I am the brainchild, I guess, behind Saber Barrier Project. If you've ever indulged yourself, I guess, in enjoying those tracks, which I would hope you do. But yeah, James has been doing it, I think, a little bit longer than myself. I think I jumped on board shortly after he had done, but I came into the picture, I guess, about the same time that Project Wildfire was still around, which was probably been tail end of 03 to going into 04, and that's been ever since. I've been on and off. I've been doing tracks for what I consider to be the project. Ultimately, what the project was supposed to involve was just simply adding the Safer Barrier to the default tracks, and it's just got blown out of proportion there.
Yeah, I came along and made things a lot more complicated.
Yeah, thanks to this guy, whatever. Yeah, he's made. No, and then looking back onto it, I guess that's what's made the game that much better, because it's like it's stuff it's usable. It's not overkill or anything like that. It's stuff that can act. It's usable stuff. That's the best way, lack of a better way to describe it. It's not.
Now, when you see this track I've got here, Jason, this is not anything that's going to be kept, so ignore all these textures.
Oh, this is your version of it?
Looks like I got a failure to load, so don't worry about that.
Uh-oh, didn't load. What does that say? Grandstand. Want to have all the textures in here?
It's a possibility.
Oops. Yeah, yeah. Both James and I had worked together in conjunction with a couple other guys. Another guy that went, his name's Doug, goes by the name of Burnout. He was actually very good 3D modeler that was with Racetrack Central. Or was it Racetrack Central? Which one was it, James?
Yeah, I believe so. You can go ahead and post a link to your Twitch page on there if he wants to follow that too.
Oh yeah, that's probably a good idea. See, and I was thinking in terms of that, doing that multi-Twitch thing too.
Yep.
If anybody's interested in following my page, I haven't done any live streams as of yet. James is usually beating me to the punch, so I just joined in on him. But I'll post a link to my Twitch channel.
If for some reason that link doesn't work, just click on his name.
Which link is that?
I'm not sure if you have to have permission to post links or not.
Oh, for real? Okay. Let me try.
Yeah, we're just getting into the streaming thing, so bear with us.
Oh, looks like it let me post it.
This is kind of a way for us to stay motivated, I guess, to kind of share what we're doing, and also kind of, because there's people watching, it's easier to stay motivated, I guess.
Yeah, keep it on track, I guess. No pun intended. Yeah, that he was mentioning that multi-Twitch too. It's like that's something that that James and I have played around with. That would be awesome, you know, in a way, because we could, you know, be doing, you know, either working collaboratively of two separate things, and you could, you know, intermix that and interact them both.
I know what the issue is. There's a second material on the material editor, but I'm not sure how to get rid of it.
Or you only got the one, I see.
See, I've got the second bubble highlighted, but it says BMP image file.
Yeah, what's there? I can't read it.
It just says BMP image file. That's what the issue is. It's calling for something, but there's nothing there.
Well, just select it and choose none. That shouldn't even be an issue. If you don't have it applied directly to the model, it shouldn't even be calling it up.
I did earlier. I used it for the ground map, or the ground image.
Oh yeah, just put none on that one then. But see, you're going through 3D Sim to make the model too, so yeah, I would probably keep that in there.
How do you select none? I'm not sure.
Select the where it says that image file.
Yeah, see, it pulls up the file selector.
Right. I know it's delayed a little bit, but select that anyway. Okay, I got you now. Ooh, dadgummit. Let me see. I got it open too. Let me check it. No, it's not that hard.
Jason does some of the PAS stuff, some of the PSG scripting and stuff like that, but as far as EXE coding, I don't believe so, no.
Yeah, nothing to modify in the EXE. The scripting is what I'm trying to get games to understand, because I know most of the models, like what he's creating here right now, is just going through 3D SimEd, which is another paid program. I think you can probably get it free somewhere, but I won't go into that. But in order to get the model, I guess, to function and have the different state switches in it, as far as like will be during the race, during testing, so on and so forth, it involves scripting, which is a PSG, the PAPI scripting. And all it does is just takes all those different functions that are implemented into the EXE and be able to call those out to say, yeah, so during this session or during this state, I want you to apply this, for instance. That's something I versed myself into being able to understand, but there's a lot of stuff that I know there's a way to do it, it's just haven't been able to pinpoint exactly how to implement it. Such things as having fireworks or something of celebratory livery to happen, I guess, when the checker flag flies, for instance.
Or, you know, one of the long-term dreams of that process would be to have like a victory lane stage drive out onto the track after the checker flag flies or something.
That too. I mean, some of these shorter tracks that don't have a fixed victory lane to where it comes out onto the front stretch or whatever. Yeah, stuff like that. I mean, being able to see, I guess, all this other stuff that's been implemented into the game thus far, as far as like day to night transitions that Smith's Den has done, way you can implement speed limit lines, to use that term loosely, on pit road to prevent hot pitting, things like that. There's plenty of stuff that can be done with the sim, so it's just a matter of tapping into that and being able to apply it. You figure that out yet, James? I'm having a problem.
You do not hit the delete button. I deleted the whole object.
I got it up here. So in the material editor. Oh, see, you've got. I'm in 5 right now. There should be right next to, underneath the where you applied this app viewport. And all that stuff right underneath the spheres, you got all those different selections. Is there an option there to select standard and all that? Right next to the rollout, there's a rollout there.
Where it says bitmap?
Yes, yeah, right there where it says bitmap, right next to the rollout. See where it says map 1 or 4 or whatever that says? I can't tell.
Yeah.
Select that, and that should be where you should be able to select none.
Yeah, so I do that, and it still shows up as a material under diffuse. Aha, there we go. What I had to do is in that part of the window under default, hit the red X under the material bubbles, and then that removed it.
That's interesting. I wonder if that's just something with Max 13, because in 5 all I got to do is just select where it says standard there, go into that, and then you've got that rollout that comes there to just choose none. And it'll take it away.
Yeah, it definitely erased it, so everything looks fine now.
Yeah, as long as it's gone, I suppose that's what matters.
Do you have any projects or goals that you're going to use that for? Critical?
I was just reading what you said there.
Because if you can take a look at Sandbox and figure that one out, let us know.
Yeah, because one of the things I would like to see implemented in a new track editing tool like Sandbox is to have such things like, one of the things that I've been trying to implement, I've been doing in a fashion that's just a 3DO format as opposed to a geometric, is adding 3D safer foam. If there was a feature to be implemented into Sandbox to say add to where you'd almost have to understand, I guess, how you apply W sections, which is a wall section in Sandbox, but to be able to say, okay, I want to choose a wall section, W section, and then being able to apply that 3D safer in a string, an array, if you will, as opposed to just applying it individually as a 3DO, that would be awesome. That's something, you know, some of the things that I would look forward to bringing out into the open, I guess, in my feeds, as far as some of the stuff that I've been trying to apply to these tracks. I mean, there's a lot of stuff I've been attempting, and it's just it gets stumped, or less stumped and stopped because of running into a roadblock, limitations of the game and such. Are you highlighting those faces in 3D Simulator, I guess, purposely or just by accident?
Well, when you do it through SimEd like that, you have to right-click on the model, just anywhere on the model, and then apply the texture again.
Really? So that's all I do is just go to edit and then edit. That's interesting. That's turning out pretty cool. Show that real picture too, in comparison. That looks freaking cool as hell. I still gotta do the 1/2, but yeah.
Now, something that I think that I'm going to attempt on another version of the model is to actually make those areas that allow the people to go through the stand into the back area. I might try to model those at least into like an inset, because I'm only at like 38 polygons for the whole thing, and that's including the back faces.
Yeah, that. No, I thought about doing that with that Portland grandstand. I did those, but yeah, I see what you mean though, dude. Creating that recess, I guess that tunnel to go into the. Look at that, that's crazy. Now, consider once you get that press box, whatever, I guess, all painted up like it should be. I mean, you can see just how specific that looks. It's crazy accurate.
I kind of laugh at you when you say that I'm good at 3ds Max, because I'm not. It's been watching tutorials on YouTube, watching stuff on Twitch. I mean, there's a whole section for game development, and I'll just get on there and I'll start asking questions. Hey, how did you do this when you clicked on that, or whatever. A lot of different people are hidden on YouTube. There's a lot of people like FreeW67. I watch a lot of his tutorial videos. Now, they're mostly for R Factor, but you know, working with 3D models, it applies to whatever you're working on. So
I think the much can be said the same for myself as far as like I have introduced myself to learning, I guess, what's been at the U.S. pits. I've taken a lot of what knowledge I gained there. Granted, I haven't really had to visit that as of late because I've just been able to apply a lot of what I already know and just keep plugging into just coming up with new ideas. Like I've tried to implement such things as track jet dryers for the asphalt tracks, and have it be able to come out, I guess, during a caution and go do laps around the track, things like that. I mean, I haven't been able to get that implemented and get it tweaked to such a point that it's actually functional, but there's a lot of stuff like that. I mean, that's possible. It's just one of the, and I guess staying on that subject, the main problem, I guess, with trying to implement something like that is every track is different, and because at least the approach that I have taken it's a 3DO. It's just like the pace car. You can run through it and stuff like that, and it has to follow certain waypoints by way of a path file to know what direction it's got to go and such. And it's next to, I guess, just replacing the pace car with the track jet gyre, for instance. That's really the only way so far that I've come up with.
looks like I'm still having a failure to load on that.
Really?
Really, to answer your question, Critical, it's been since 2003. I mean, it's been an ongoing process. I learn something new on every one.
Yeah, same here. I mean, it's you see these other. There's plenty of us out here. We're not the only ones, and I think that's an important point. We realize that we're not the only ones out there that are doing this now. There's plenty of places like like Smith's Den, Pissy, Freddie and Sean. They've got their stuff. Many guys like that. But what we would really like to do is just kind of share our thoughts, and understand, I guess, maybe there might be something that some of these guys might learn what we're doing, and we might learn from them, possibly. I mean, I think that's the even exchange, I guess, in the community. I guess it's like we're kind of all on the same mindset. At least that's the way we like to think, And it shouldn't be all, I want to keep this in house and just have it be, this is all mine. You can't have it. It's just, that's not fair. I mean, it's not the way this. I don't feel the way this community really works. I think if we can get people out there to understand as far as like what goes in, and if you have any knowledge at all of being able to work in the sandbox or do 3D modeling and such, to be able to take it that next step and say, okay, this is what I need to do to get it working in the game, so on. I think there's, in my mind, through my observations and just watching and listening to what people say in the different forums of the community and such like that, that's the sense I get. I just don't have that one little piece that's critical, I guess, to get it implemented into the sim, and it's just hoping by doing these types of live feeds it would give them some insight.
Well, doing this process here, I mean, you run into issues and you know how to fix them.
Yeah, he's mentioning about the, I guess I didn't even know Vegas had a dirt track either. Doesn't surprise me, but saying how those stands are identical. See, and that's another thing too. It's like I've seen people that have dabbled in sandbox. They'll tend to borrow objects that are already in existence into their own build and such like that. To me, I don't really feel there's nothing wrong with that. It's like if that's what gets anybody to understand as far as like the ins and outs of it, it's just The other thing I would like to see go away, whether it will or not, is just people that build tracks, you know, in their own on their own end there, and borrowing stuff, I guess, from other people, understand that somebody had to build that, you know. And this is part of the other thing as far as like doing these live feeds, to understand exactly how much goes into it. An object, a simple object as doing this grandstand, how much time and effort goes into it. Understand that, you know, you just give credit where credit's due. I mean, there's nothing wrong with using it, but just don't take it like it's your own. I feel like we're on the same idea there, right? Still having issues?
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I think you've tried something very similar to having the jet dryer come out.
Yeah, I have done it. I still have the object. I still got the script. Like I said, the main problem that I ran into, because it's this 3DO, much like you understand the way the pace cars work, you can drive through it and such, doesn't have any crash properties or anything like that. But with having it in that fashion, you have to have it follow a waypoint, and each track would be different. And it's really hard to, I guess, to get a path file to get the orientation of the model to follow the contour, the banking of the track from track to track. It's just, that's been my main hang-up. I mean, I can get it to show up and so on in various tracks, be it big, small, whatever, but you know, the orientation of it is, you know, not correct. And you know, and like I said, the one way I have found out that you can implement it is by replacing the pace car. So if you wanted a track dryer in there, you could just replace the pace car and have the jet dryer follow the same path as the pace car. Well, it's not totally impossible. It's just, you know, that's somewhat of a compromise right now.
I just figured out the problem, by the way. I forgot to, when I renamed the texture, I forgot to rename it as the map too.
Oh, as far as going into 3D SimEd, yeah, the two different right call-ups, I guess, for that texture. Yeah, the bitmap, I guess, on the model from 3D Max, and then the MIP for 3D SimEd, yeah. Always something.
It's been an amazing community. I mean, anytime I've ever asked anybody for help, they've always given it to me as best they could. I mean,
right. You know, I think that's the other thing that keeps me going. There's plenty of those in the community that are much have the same mindset as we do, and everybody's got something to bring to the table. You know, but like I said, I feel, through my observations and just paying attention, listening, and looking at different forums, what I come to find is like some just don't have a certain piece. You know, like I feel like those like myself, James included, can bring that piece to the table and say like, okay, this is what you need to do. And by doing these live feeds and being able to show and bring it full circle as far as like, oh wow, I didn't realize that, or something, you know, this aha moment, if you will.
okay, finally got it. Yeah, so ignore the ground textures and stuff that are on this. I just wanted something to look at.
Oh, right. Yeah, you still got that one end of the grandstand to be mapped yet, so yeah.
And it looks like the transparency carried through.
I'm still a little bit behind yet, but I believe. I see you put dirt texture down too. Just noticed that. Grass and the dirt. That doesn't look too bad. Now, are those texture that I already had in there?
No, the grass and the orange red dirt is different.
Okay, so you changed those on your end, right?
Yeah, like I said, I had no plans of using these. I just want something to look at.
Oh, right. Instead of the white. I don't blame you. That looks pretty good, actually. I like the way you've got that. I have to with you offline on that stuff, but yeah. Show me that transparency again on the end. Yeah, that looks good. Yep, that don't look bad at all. Like I said, once you get, I think that looks really killer with that, with the grandstands and the full track. They're in the, looking into turn one. That's cool. That's a must. Point of reference. Show your little restroom there too. That's almost the same view I showed Matt too. That restroom way out there. I said, you're not even gonna be able to see that. I'm like, the hell you can't. Yeah, that looks cool. That is gonna be so. Now once we get the billboards in there and possibly even implement that the highway that's in between the two tracks. Oh my, this is looking pretty good. I'm getting excited now.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take those big track grandstands and lower them down to the ground and make that one flat on the bottom.
Right, I already did that on my end, but yeah, that's why I brought that up too. But it made sense as far as like, because you were going by the default orientation of the original stands. I like the way you did the dirt textures though. I think the apron might be a little bit dark, but on that it looks, that's a nice look there. Yep, there's your restroom.
Kind of the overall view there.
Right. You have the actual picture of it too, just to give some reference. I mean, that's insanely accurate. Yeah. Yeah, it seemed like you said as far as the stance for the big track or whatever. I don't think it'd be necessary to keep the full front face, I guess, of that.
Now you notice I made the outside X section a little bit bigger too.
The outside one? The outermost one you meant?
Yeah, just to give it more area here, and I'll show you the underneath of it.
Right.
So it comes out basically to the outside of the grandstand.
Oh, yeah, I got you. I've got it open on my end as far as the one I have, yeah. That just fits so nice, I'm just saying. Now, I think like you said too, as far as implementing the grandstand, I guess for the drag strip and on the other end of the track, yeah.
At least some kind of basic, it doesn't have to be fully modeled, but just kind of basic representation like that other side.
Yep, I'm totally feeling that.
And then on what's the back stretch, I was going to come up with some kind of flat plane, kind of zigzagging a little bit. It's kind of hard to describe. I haven't even started it yet, but just a line of trees on a flat plane that kind of zigzags.
There's trees over there?
Yeah, there's a very large forest here. I'll show you on the Google Earth.
No kidding. Well, a lot of the picture references that I have thus far doesn't really show that area. Most of them are of the front stretch and or either end of the track, but not necessarily the back stretch. So it wouldn't surprise me, I guess.
So I think if you just create a vertical plane that is the same shape as this, maybe kind of zigzag it a little bit.
Yeah, it's still coming up on the slightly delayed, but we'll get there. Yeah, I see the forest now. Now, how do you mean like the zigzag? I guess is to create, I guess, a fullness there.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to describe. I can't remember any track that has it, otherwise I'd show you. I seem to remember Watkins Glen or some of the other road courses had a similar object. Maybe Infineon or something.
Right. Well, and I see what you're getting at. Rather than have a model and have individual trees, I guess, to make that particular forest, you know, it's not necessary.
Maybe right here at this area, just have a couple partial 3D trees there, just kind of make it, you know.
Right. I'm gonna have to get that version from you, that PTF or whatnot that you've applied there. So that's you've done. This looks like you've done a little bit more than I've done, as far as moving that outermost X section and applying the dirt texture and such.
Yeah, I just wanted to get something to look at.
Oh, I understand that. Get tired of looking at that white.
Yep. I think that darker texture is something that you had in there, and then this more orangish brown dirt is I think it was off the 70s version of the figure 8 papyrus track.
Oh, the 8-ball, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like that might be just like sand or something. Yeah, it looks pretty cool. I think even if you were to lighten up the darker texture on the apron side, yeah, that would flow really good.
And then that grass is just from Lowe's, default Lowe's, I think.
Right. I think that fits it pretty well. I mean, it's, you know, you want to have something that's indigenous, I guess, to that area. So taking it, I guess, from somewhere any other than you put that on the infield too, right? Okay, you got it there and on the outfield.
So what's the final word on the grandstand texture? Does that look okay?
Oh yeah, that looks killer. I mean, I don't think, you know, like I said, I think the only thing else it needs is just to put the dress up the press box, put that slogan or whatever that they got on the above the windows, and then make that front face, I guess, that red. And then, other than applying crowds, that's about it. State switches for that. You are going to finish up, I guess, the mapping, I guess, on the other end of that stand, right?
No, I was just going to leave it like that.
I mean, once you get the people on here, you're going to be able to tell. But did you already map, I guess, the bottom half? No, you haven't yet, I guess, of the press box.
Nah, I'm kind of sitting inside of it right now.
Oh, yeah, I see that now. Yep. Yeah, it's just going to look killer when it's done. Yeah, and like I said, I've got 1 rows of 6 lights with the why does that look warped like that? Is that just the camera angle doing that?
Where's it at? I didn't say.
So when you spin it behind from that point that you're at, going by the live feed anyway, it looks like it's probably is this the camera view, I'm sure. Yeah, right there.
Well, it does wrap around, so.
Yeah, that's probably all it is. It looked weird. What else was I saying though as far as... Yeah, I think just getting that press box, I guess, decorate that up. know, but going back to what we were talking about last night, building up, I guess, the dirt or whatever up against the backside of the walls, that's something else I need to look into. I'm not asking you to do that, I'm just saying that's something that's in my footnotes here as far as that's something I kind of missed totally, I guess, when I did the Eldora build. Back to Street View here, what are we looking at?
I think this is a different image, isn't it, from the other side of the road?
I'm not sure what exactly you're looking at. I think that's you're looking at the forest, you mean?
I think it was taken on a different day by the looks of it, because the other one, the track was empty. This has a bunch of people at it.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, they update those. Wow, you can really see all those banners now. On the big track stands. Interesting. Yeah, because I don't think it showed nearly as many vehicles on the highway in that other image. Okay, there's Safety Clean, Toyota, Coca-Cola. There's your restaurant.
Accurately sponsored by Papa John's.
I don't think you have that actually on there, do you? I was asking you if you were gonna put that.
Yeah, I don't plan on it.
I think that's funny.
Yeah, that's definitely from a different day. Just on the other side of this highway, they've.
Well, now that you mention it, yeah, I'm noticing like the cloud cover in that too.
That's actually kind of pretty, isn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, it's funny how you mentioned that, because is that the way that line is on the highway like that? That yellow?
No, that's the Street View path.
Oh, I was gonna say, what the world? I think you can turn that off, I think. This is crazy. See, now, you know, I guess thinking ahead as far as like how to implement that highway, you know, outside the track there, I think it would be better to just do it like as a 3DO, the flat plane, I guess, for the road itself, and then like the lattice that goes over. I'm assuming those are informational signs that turn on.
I had a wild, crazy thought as far as implementing that highway. If you really wanted to get crazy with it in a way that I can't remember what his name was that did the most recent version of Watkins Glen, is actually create that as another PTF file and then convert it to a 3DO.
Right, and that's pretty much the thought that I had there. Yeah, you could basically build, and I've done that with doing a lot of those quarter mile tracks that are on a lot of the 1.5 miles. So you basically just make a small inner track in sandbox, take that PTF, convert it to XML, and then turn to a 3DS, and then just use that as texture it and use that as a model. That can totally be done. The only thing is, like if you were to take and use TrackMaker, for instance, to have all the objects and such, you might get into poly issues. So I was thinking in terms of creating a flat plane, I guess, for the highway itself, texture that would be a separate object, and then just implementing like that informational board, that lattice that goes across, and then the vehicles would be nothing. I mean, you could just take shared items and even apply way paths to them, you know, so that it looks like they're going up and down the highway. What are you looking at now at Vegas? Oh, that's that dirt track.
I'm not sure if that's the bull ring or not. And as a matter of fact, I didn't know Las Vegas had a dirt track either.
No, I didn't until Critical mentioned it. It doesn't surprise me, but yeah, I would have never guessed that. Look at all the porta-johns.
Oh wow, yeah, I didn't even see that.
How can you not? How can you miss them?
I was leaning up in my seat trying to look over top of them.
Water trucks. Cool. I knew Vegas had a drag strip, but I didn't know it had a dirt track.
See, this is something that come along probably, I'm going to say about 7 years ago, being able to use Google Street View and stuff like this, and having satellite images completely changed the game.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, the only downside to it is like you just came across. I mean, when they update the images, you know, that kind of takes away. I mean, they do have the history. You can go back in history, I guess, and look at a different view. I don't know if you're capable of doing it in the street view, but I know you can in the satellite. But you can go back in time, however far back. I mean, it's different depending on what area you go to. But
Well, see, when we had originally started doing Las Vegas, I would have killed to have this overhead view of the new Neon Garage.
oh yeah, and you look at it now, right? I mean, that collaborative build that I'd done with Renault fan from SRD there, that's pretty much what we went by. That might not be the exact one, but that track that we did collaboratively, that is so freaking detailed, it's not even funny. I mean, that DAT ended up being, and a lot of it comes from the textures, but that DAT is over 100 megabytes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure when we started doing the Las Vegas stuff, it had this image on it. I mean, it was still nice to have the satellite image where you could still take measurements and stuff for wall openings and whatnot, but it took a while for them to update.
But now I think they update them a lot more. How far back did you go?
I think that was 2007.
That's 7 right there. Yeah, see, it doesn't have. Looks like it's still freshly paved. Looks familiar. Yep, there's the bull ring. See, that's going back. What year is that?
14.
That's 14. So as it sits. Nice. Look at all the landscaping and stuff they got there now. That's the drag strip right next to it, I assume. That black strip right next to the bull ring, I assume. Wasn't really sure where the drag strip was located and how close to.
Actually, it looks like it's over by the dirt track.
Right, that's what I meant. That black strip that's going right there, is that the drag strip? Or, oh, I was looking at the totally. What's that other one you were looking at first? It was off to the top right.
It's a road course, looks like.
Okay, so, okay, that's the dirt track. So it's on the turn 4 side?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I gotcha. Tracking now. So that out there, that's a road course? Looks like an oval though. No, I'm talking about that one that's to the extreme top right. That oval there, it's right there. What track is that?
Critical said asphalt boring.
Oh, that's the asphalt boring. So they got a dirt and a. That's crazy.
They got all the money in Las Vegas.
Jeez. Too much money, it sounds like. Not only do they have a dirt bull ring, they have a asphalt bull ring. Nice. What did you start looking at the Vegas for anyway? Just because you brought it up, or?
Yeah, he wanted to see the dirt track on there.
Right. I mean, this Google Earth it's a track maker's dream. I think it's just, like I said, being able to take measurements. Actually, you can probably show that too. As far that's another aspect that we use religiously, as far as getting proper dimensions. Like from one known point to another, and being able to apply that into Sandbox to get, the accuracy aspect there.
Yeah, using the ruler tool on Google Earth and then using the linear guide on Sandbox.
Yep. They work one and the same.
I mean, it's not perfect, but you can zoom in to within, if I had to put an estimate, under 5 inches or greater resolution.
Yeah, either inches. If you go by meters, I guess that's within probably a half to a meter.
I mean, it's really up to your computer how much your computer can zoom into it without crashing.
Well, that too. Very true. See, the thing that I've found, particularly with Google Earth, the more you zoom in, the more it tends to want to go to 3D view. So it tends to, I don't want to say distorted, but it tends to put it askew. So you have to kind of keep that in mind too, sometimes.
There's a way to disable that.
Is it? That's why I always tend to stay zoomed out a little bit more, and then just run the ruler like further zoomed out, and then to zoom it in.
That's been a while. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, there's a lot of options in it, that's for sure. But one thing that I always make a point of doing, as far as like if I want to take a picture or snapshot of the top-down view, like you got there, to get that pinpoint out of there, as far as like what you're actually. In this case, it says whatever it says. You still got that open, but anyway, to turn that off, you just have to take it out of the search box. Get rid of it. Yeah, see, now it's gone.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
That used to drive me nuts. It's just like you're in there, it's like, I just want a picture, I don't want that pinpoint in there. I had talked to Matt too about implementing that Google Earth image that you've got, that latest one that I acquired from you, and use that as the ground as far as the for the game, instead of using that one that I think you put that in there because I didn't have it in there.
Right.
I think this, using the Google Earth image, would be better. And then if you wanted to darken it and add, nightscape or whatever to it. That would be another thing that would be cool in Google Earth, is if you would able to apply different times of day.
You can.
Really? Enlighten me. I like it.
It's kind of gimmicky. It's not actual satellite images or anything, but you can lighten and darken it.
From right in Google Earth? Oh, I see. So it doesn't actually add night. I gotcha. See, like if it would actually show like the different lighting.
Sorry about that. I got a phone call.
No problem. We got normal everyday lives too.
Now, some of those I know it can load a night image and a day image. It just depends on whether the database has one.
Right. And that's what I figured too. If they've actually taken a satellite image of it at night. I've come across those, but they're very rare. I mean, not all the different tracks have that.
Well, you can't really see much at night, so it's kind of a waste for them to take that picture.
Yeah, and that's understandable. But as far as if you wanted to create that, that image that I was speaking of, as far as what the game uses as the environment ground, it's actually beneficial. they would only understand that what we need it for. Maybe they do it more. I don't know.
Well, it looks like it's about supper time here on the East Coast, so
Yep.
I'm going to go ahead and get off here and take an intermission and get some food, and I'll probably be back on a little bit later.
Sounds good. Yeah, we might as well do that the same. Some in the same times. I don't know where everybody else is at, but if you've got us both followed, keep your notifications turned on, and we'll be able to know, I guess, when we're back on. Appreciate everybody chiming in for your input, and hopefully you come back around again.
Yep, and thank you very much for the follow, Critical. Good talking with you.